Breaking news from Sydney's glittering harborside. What was meant to be Meghan Markle's triumphant girls' weekend reset has collapsed into a sparsely attended whisper of an event, while the woman she's long been accused of shadowing stole the spotlight without even trying. Today, the Sussex brand's carefully curated comeback tour has met its most brutal mirror yet. Pamela Anderson. Same cities. Same week in April 2026. Same pursuit of connection with Australian audiences. But the outcomes could not be more different. One room filled with genuine warmth and sold-out energy. The other? Let's just say the pin-drop silence was audible even from the cheap seats. Grateful for the love, Sydney, but the contrast is impossible to ignore. Do not look away. In the next few minutes, we are opening the authenticity files. We will reveal how a $3,000 a head wellness retreat that promised transformation delivered mostly empty chairs and last-minute discounts, while Pamela Anderson's accessible conversation events drew crowds who actually showed up. We will expose the deleted social media shade that said everything without saying a word. And we will break down why one icon built on decades of raw resilience commands respect, while the other's attempt to ride that wave has Australians politely but firmly declining the ticket. The checkbook of public goodwill is closed for the Sussexes in Oz. The truth is wide open. Stay with us. It started innocently enough, or so the Sussex PR machine wanted us to believe. Prince Harry and Meghan Markle touched down in Australia for what was billed as a high-profile return to the Commonwealth, complete with speaking engagements, wellness retreats, and that signature trash for cash blend of celebrity and semi-royal branding. But across town, Pamela Anderson was simply being Pamela. No frantic PR blitz, no $3,000 barriers to entry. Just tickets starting at $85, an intimate yet accessible conversation on reinvention, resilience, and second acts at Darling Harbour Theatre. And the people showed up. While Meghan's Her Best Life retreat at the Intercontinental in Coogee struggled to fill its capped 300-guest intimate gathering, organizers quietly pushing last-minute rooms and VIP add-ons even days before, Pamela's events were packing them in. Reports and attendee buzz painted a clear picture. One side felt like a pay-to-play performance for the few who could afford it. The other felt like a genuine gathering of fans who admire a woman who has lived her life out loud. Then came the post. Pamela Anderson, never one to chase drama, reportedly dropped a subtle but unmistakable mic drop on X, formerly Twitter. A cheeky observation about people trying to ride your wave, same city, same day, same cause, but one presentation needing no microphone, just authenticity. One room filled, the other? You could hear a pin drop. The post, quickly deleted, sent royal watchers into a frenzy. The implication was clear to anyone paying attention. Meghan, sources close to the Sydney scene say, was not amused. To understand why this moment feels like such a public unmasking, we must look at the women side by side, not as rivals in the same league, because they never were, but as case studies in how genuine connection is earned versus manufactured. Pamela Anderson's story is one of survival and reinvention forged in fire. Baywatch icon, global sex symbol. Survivor of childhood trauma, abusive relationships, exploitation, and Hollywood's brutal machinery. She has spoken openly about it all without positioning herself as a perpetual victim. In her own words, captured in raw interviews and her documentary, "I'm not a victim. I put myself in crazy situations and survived them. No scripted perfection, no curated victim narrative. Just a woman who shows up natural, makeup-free at times, speaking from the heart because she's still trying to figure it all out too." Her Pamela's Cooking with Love show reflected that same unfiltered energy. Bright kitchens, garden-to-table moments, genuine hospitality. It resonated because it felt real. Contrast that with the Sussex approach. Meghan's with Love, Meghan Netflix series arrived with heavy promotion, garden basket walks, flower arrangements, celebrity friends she reportedly hadn't met before, and a kitchen aesthetic that observers immediately flagged as strikingly similar. High fives with guests, laid-back fashion, the laid-back domestic goddess vibe. Critics and viewers pointed out the parallels, not just in format, but in tone. When asked directly, Pamela responded with classy detachment, "I didn't invent cooking shows. She's just doing her thing. No shade, just facts." But the public saw the pattern. This isn't isolated. Meghan's brand has long been accused of borrowing aesthetics, phrasing, and concepts from lifestyle influencers to actual royals, then amplifying them through paid media placements and polished Instagram perfection. The Sydney retreat was no different. $2,699 to $3,199 for a girls' weekend like no other, promising wellness, sound healing, gala dinners, and a fleeting audience with the Duchess. No phones allowed. VIP photos extra. Yet even at those premium prices, in a country grappling with cost of living pressures, demand was soft enough for last-minute drops. Pamela? Accessible pricing. Real talk on resilience. A room full of people who chose to be there because they respect the journey, not the title. That deleted X post wasn't just shade, it was a mirror. Same city, same day, same cause. Some presentations don't need a mic, just authenticity. One event overflowing, the other echoing with emptiness. Australians known for their straightforwardness weren't buying the hype. Harry's own events reportedly saw heavy discounting. Meghan's intimate gathering felt less exclusive and more exclusive in the worst way, priced for the elite few, attended by even fewer. Insiders whisper the contrast hit especially hard because Meghan has long positioned herself as the modern, authentic voice, victim of the institution, champion of the everyday woman. Yet here she was, charging thousands in a time of economic strain, while the woman she's been compared to and allegedly emulated filled theaters on goodwill and genuine admiration. Pamela didn't need to attack. The numbers, the atmosphere, and the public reaction did it for her. And by deleting the post, she maintained that graceful distance she's cultivated, speaking volumes without descending into the Sussex cycle of grievance and spin. Let's break it down, chapter by chapter, in the cold light of public perception, the resilience chapter. Pamela lived the chaos, abuse, exploitation, multiple divorces, and emerged redefining herself on her own terms. She owns her past without weaponizing it. Meghan exited royal life citing unbearable hardship, then built a brand around that narrative while enjoying Montecito luxury. Australians, pragmatic as ever, seem to prefer the survivor who doesn't dwell in victimhood. The authenticity chapter. Pamela shows up raw. Meghan's events come with strict no-phone rules, controlled narratives, and elevated pricing that screams, "Watch me perform wellness." One feels like conversation, the other feels like a transaction. The copycat chapter. From cooking shows to garden aesthetics to wellness branding, the pattern of borrowing and rebranding has become hard to ignore. Pamela's graceful non-reaction only highlights the difference. One creates, the other curates. The audience chapter. People vote with their wallets and their time. Pamela's events drew crowds who paid modest sums and left inspired. Meghan's high-ticket retreat struggled, forcing fire sale tactics. The message from Down Under was clear. We respect earned respect, not imported entitlement. This Sydney showdown isn't just about two events colliding in April 2026. It stands as a devastating microcosm of why the Sussex brand has hemorrhaged credibility, goodwill, and financial viability ever since the couple traded royal duty for Montecito independence. In a world increasingly exhausted by performative activism, scripted vulnerability, and polished victimhood, raw authenticity doesn't just cut through, it dominates. Pamela Anderson, now in her late 50s and still reinventing with quiet grace, commands sold-out rooms and genuine affection, not because of a title, a Netflix deal, or a carefully managed Instagram feed, but because she has lived the mess, survived the scandals, owned the mistakes, and emerged more interesting for it. Meghan Markle, despite the Duchess title, the multi-million-dollar contracts, and the relentless media engineering, continues to struggle precisely because the public senses the calculation behind every move. The contrast in Sydney laid that truth bare under the harsh Australian sun. The deleted post from Pamela, whether intended as subtle shade or a simple observation about authenticity, landed like a quiet but final verdict from the court of public opinion. Australians, famously direct and allergic to pretension, took the ride offered by both women and chose the real one without hesitation. While Pamela's accessible, heart-driven conversations filled theaters with fans who paid modest ticket prices and left feeling uplifted, Meghan's high-ticket intimate wellness retreat at the Intercontinental felt more like an exclusive transaction than a genuine gathering. The pricing, starting at nearly $3,000 per person in a country battling cost of living pressures, spoke volumes. It wasn't an invitation to connect, it was a demand to be admired. And when the seats remained conspicuously empty despite the hype, the Sussex brand's deeper problem became impossible to spin away. This isn't an isolated misstep. It fits a now familiar pattern that has defined the Sussex's post-Meg exit journey: the relentless borrowing of aesthetics, concepts, and credibility from others, followed by an expectation that the world will celebrate the imitation as innovation. From lifestyle branding to cooking shows, from wellness retreats to philanthropic initiatives, the public has watched the couple attempt to shortcut the hard work of building something original. Pamela didn't invent the cooking show format, but she infused it with her own unfiltered personality and life experience. Meghan's version, critics noted, mirrored not just the structure, but the visuals, the garden-to-table moments, and even the guest interactions. Yet it landed with far less resonance. The same dynamic played out in Sydney. One woman showed up as herself. The other appeared to be performing a version of what she believes an authentic icon should look like. At its core, the broader lesson here is about earned versus entitled respect. Pamela Anderson has spent decades turning personal chaos into compelling narrative without ever demanding the audience bow to her suffering. She has spoken candidly about trauma, exploitation, and reinvention while refusing the victim label that has become central to the Sussex brand. Meghan, by contrast, exited royal life citing immense hardship, then built an entire empire around that narrative of grievance, only to find that audiences grow weary when the storytelling feels strategic rather than sincere. The result is a brand that feels increasingly hollow. Partnerships dry up. Ticket sales falter. Even loyal pockets of support erode when the gap between the curated image and the perceived reality becomes too wide to ignore. As the sun sets on this latest chapter of the Sussex tour, Harry and Meghan are once again left confronting the same uncomfortable question that has haunted them since stepping back from royal duties. Why does the world keep rejecting the carefully crafted image they present? Pamela Anderson didn't need to compete. She simply existed in her truth, spoke from the heart, and let the contrast do the heavy lifting. In doing so, she unintentionally held up a mirror that the Sussex machine has spent years trying to avoid. The walls of inauthenticity are closing in faster than ever. The public checkbook of goodwill, once seemingly bottomless in the early days of Megxit, is now firmly closed for many. Ticket sales, streaming numbers, brand partnerships, and even basic public curiosity have all trended downward as audiences grow savvier about spotting performance over substance. This Sydney moment may prove to be a turning point, not because Pamela attacked, but because the numbers, the atmosphere, and the deleted post together delivered a verdict no amount of PR spin could soften. The hardest truth Pamela's presence revealed is this: respect cannot be purchased, borrowed, or titled into existence. It must be earned through consistency, humility, and the courage to be unscripted. In an age starving for the genuine, the Sussex brand's polished packaging is increasingly being seen for what it is: a high-priced imitation that fails the ultimate test when placed side by side with the real thing. Whether they choose to learn from this mirror or continue doubling down may well determine if there are any future chapters left to write. For now, the lesson from Down Under is crystal clear: authenticity isn't a branding strategy. It's the only currency that still buys connection, and right now the market has spoken.